Hi, guys. My name is Amina K. Thornton, and you're listening to the One Up podcast. And today we are sharing another message of hope where people come in and share their story of success, where they have felt that they were struggling in life and they gained the knowledge and the willpower really to overcome that and find success in their life. So today I have Annie Koshy here, and she's going to be sharing her story about how she is helping young people, thousands of young people and women every single day with her message. She's got a couple interesting things here that I do want to point out, and I'll make sure we cover. But one is a book, and the other one is a movie. Is that correct? Or a video? Okay, she's giving me the yes sign. So very interesting to hear about that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let her start us off on her journey and welcome her here. Annie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Amina, for this opportunity. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak to your fans and friends and followers. Really, it's a glorious, beautiful Monday morning, and I'm grateful to be here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming. I appreciate every single person that, takes out their time to share the message, especially from struggle to success, because it really is something that's overlooked and much needed in the world. So where did this all begin? Where would you say that your struggle really took place, or what was the major one? How do you want to start?
There's so many. I don't even
Yeah.
know that I even recognized it was a struggle, right? I just felt I didn't fit. And I think that feeling of not fitting stemmed from me being very artistic and very creative in a very traditional, academically oriented family, and not ever feeling like I was good enough, that I wasn't getting the perfects in the maths and the sciences and stuff. But I was very creative, and I was probably too creative at times for my parents. But what it was, I just didn't
Were,
feel
were you
like
one of were you one of those kids that used to paint on the walls and stuff, like with the markers? Because I have one of those kids that she's just super creative. She mixes things in the kitchen and in the bathroom. I find them all over the house. Like I'm just like, what is this? She cuts up stuff like everywhere.
yeah, I'm
Is that
probably.
what we're
I
talking
think my
about?
mom, my mom was probably shocked the first time she came to my house, and my house was spotless. And there wasn't a drop of anything around, because when I was living at home, her harping to me was about, your room, clean up, and, the typical stuff, right? But when she came home, her eyes widened up and she goes, "Where did this all come from?" And I said, "Yeah, a bit of you rubbed off on me," right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it was at that point. And so I think
You grew
that
in your creativity
I
though with your other
yeah,
with your other endeavors.
I grew into it. I was on stage from the age of 3. I think I had that stage bug. I was born with it. I think
Wow,
I
what'd you
just
do on
didn't
stage?
realize.
What'd you do on stage?
I think we had some sort of performance. I was a song or a play or something that I was in
Okay.
at
Yeah.
at 3.
You just remember
And
being up on stage.
I was told, actually, I didn't actually remember. I thought it was a lot later that
Oh.
I was on stage. And
Oh.
my uncle actually said, "No, your first performance was at 3."
Wow.
So I didn't know that, right? So, and then that just right into my early teens, I was recognized. My voice was always recognized. It has an amazing mic presence. And so from 13, 14, I was hosting, or I was emceeing, and that led to me teaching choir. And I started teaching choir at the age of 15 to the group of youth in my church. And that continued for about 17, 18 years. And so my love of music was honed through that. I think creativity is within all of us. We just decide how we're going to harness that or shape that, and if it's going to become something significant or if it's going to become something of a hobby. So for the longest time, my creativity was put on the side and was more of a hobby that I delved into when I needed to.
Yeah,
But I didn't
I
realize.
think even like in our society, in general as a whole, it's really, wanting to separate creativity as a separate thing. And it really isn't, because you can even be creative in like the way you structure your business. You can be creative, like, of course, when you're cooking. It's really in everything you do, the way you dress, the way you act, it's an
And
expression.
so I think it is. And then I think part of it is that in some roles and in some occupations or in some positions, that creativity is welcomed and it's encouraged. Whereas in others, you're expected to conform. And I had difficulties when I was expected to conform to a system that that was boxing my creativity. I thrive and I blossom when I'm able to apply that creativity in a way that is going to enhance or grow the position or thing that I need to do. But when I found myself in traditional roles in which you had to fit into someone else's description or expectation of how you
Yeah.
had to be, I felt stifled. And that stifling came out in a number of ways. I come from a very conservative background in terms of religion as well. We're Orthodox Christians. And I come from a very small community, initially based in Toronto. And my parents were first generation migrants. And so their fear was really to retain their sense of culture, at the same time embrace this new culture that they were now, in, and make Canada their home. I don't know if you know, we were initially in Boston. So my dad did his doctorate in mathematics from Boston before we moved to Toronto. And
So what
the
brought
thing
you to
about
Toronto? What brought you to Toronto originally?
My parents, when they decided to migrate, my dad was applied on a student visa. We received, I think, immigration to Australia, to the US, to Canada, to New Zealand. And there were, I think, one more place. Anyways, my dad decided to do his higher studies in the US. And my mom followed. And I was left behind with my mom's parents who raised me.
Oh,
So I actually, yeah, so my
interesting.
dad left. Yeah, my dad left when I was about 6 months old, and my
Wow.
mom left when I was just short of, I think, a year, maybe 8 months or
But then
around a
they
year.
came back later when you guys, or no? Okay, okay. So your
So,
your your mom's parents raised you like
yeah,
your
my
whole
mom's
life, right?
parents.
Just making sure I got
No,
this right.
no, they raised me. So I met my parents for the first time when I was 4.5, almost 5 years old.
Okay.
Um, and my grandmother brought me to the US.
Okay.
And that I was then transferred to my parents, and
Yeah.
my parents, raised me from there. We moved from there to Toronto after that, Amina, and that's where I've grown up, is all of my life in Canada, in Toronto. And
Okay.
the thing about it is that when our community first came to Canada, there was maybe 100 families here in Ontario that were from Kerala and from the same background that I come from, which is the Orthodox Christian community that I'm from. There weren't that many. And so I grew up with about 100 different pairs of parents because we became adopted. It was a way to retain our culture, our religion, our ethnicity, and be able to feel comfortable in the language. We spoke a different language, and the customs were different. And
It's
at the same time,
comfort zone. You
was
created a comfort zone in a culture. Yeah.
that absolutely that remained, because my parents continued to only really socialize with the community.
Because they're
So even though
comfortable. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah,
we've
I
lived in
understand.
that same house since 1983. My parents have been there. We moved there in 1983, and they don't know a single neighbor, right?
Hmm.
And it's not that they are not social people.
Yeah.
They choose to socialize within just the community, and that's become a comfort zone, as you've said, and they've retained that. Whereas me, I'm the social butterfly, and I make friends with everyone. Very soon, I know all the neighbors. They know me. They know, a lot of other things. I'm sure my parents and my family were like, "Why do you tell everyone everything?" Well,
That's how you
I'm just like
connect.
that,
You
right?
connect. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was very different. I come from this very restrictive, keep everything in the family sort of type of upbringing, and then there's me, and I wear my heart on the sleeve. I walk around, and what you see is what you get with me, and I'm happy to share my
Good.
experience, right?
Yeah, I love that.
But
I love people that are raw and real. So yeah.
but it was hard. So when I was going through this period of growing up and into my early adulthood and mid adulthood, I was conforming. I was suppressing this need and desire to share and share my experiences and share my thoughts and share how I felt about stuff. And I was just considered maybe too open and sharing too many things. And it was not looked upon as being very positive. What's changed is when I decided that that voice within me was being suppressed, and I realized that it was being suppressed and that I had less life to live than I had lived. That was a real pivot moment.
Now,
That was when I
what age was that? Would you say? When did you have that realization?
do
Were
I
you
have
still
to
in
share that?
teens? Were you in teens, or are we talking about
No,
20s, 30s? What are we talking about?
no, I'm talking. Oh gosh, we don't want to go higher than that.
Uh,
No, I'm talking in my 40s, and
okay,
so
yeah. Well,
and
you look
that was
gorgeous. Don't age is just a number. And I have
it.
friends that are teenagers. I mean, literally, I have business associates that are 19, 18, 19, and they're just as passionate as the people that I know up in their 80s. I have friends in their 80s.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
age is just
absolutely.
a
I
number.
agree with you. It's your mindset, right? It's about
Mhm.
how you look at life and how you deal with life. And so you have two choices, really. And so I wake up every morning happy, and it's a choice that I make. It's a choice to make, regardless of what's going on externally. I choose to be happy internally. And when you choose to be happy internally, Amina, it changes your perspective on everything external that happens to you. It's almost like being that duck that allows water to roll off its back, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the difference, is that I changed from expecting other people to pour happiness into me to being able to pour happiness into myself. And that was a pivot moment for me as well. So I think that it was a series. I wouldn't go back and say from hindsight right now and say, oh, I wish I didn't do this, or I wish I was like that, or I wish I had this experience. Because I think all of those experiences has led to me and who I am today, and the balanced person that people come to and approach and ask for to speak to. um, the experiences that shape us, the good, the bad, the salty, the sweet, it forms that entire palette of flavors that makes you who you are, right?
Yeah.
And so even when you're at your worst, when you sit up and you realize that even at your worst you love yourself, it makes it easier for other people to love you.
Yeah, I can definitely, resonate with that. I can agree. Yeah. So when you came to your realization, that, hey, you feel like you were suppressed and you were just done feeling that way. What was life like at that time? What was making things difficult? Because it sounds like there's some difficulty there that, made you just like, you know what? I am so done being this old version of me. I am so ready to one up this and go to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah, I got married at 21. I had
Mhm.
a traditional arranged Indian wedding.
Okay,
And
interesting. Yeah.
and so not only did I do that, after I got married, a year and a half, or actually 2.5 years after I got married, I moved from Toronto and I went back and lived in India. And I lived in India for 15 years.
Wow,
Now,
that's quite a while. Yeah.
yeah, and I went from a very established, well-off family upbringing to a very poor rural lifestyle. So I went
Okay.
from 3,000 square feet, which is what I grew up with my parents, to 500 square feet, a government-issued railway quarter with absolutely no running water. That was what I walked into.
Wow. And that was where you lived for 15 years. Is that correct?
Well, I was in
Or
that city for 6 years, and
okay.
then I had both my children at that point, and then I put my foot down. I really was not happy. I found that there are two things. There's definitely gender differences between Indian men and Indian women. Right across the world, there's gender
Yeah.
differences between sexes, right?
Yeah.
But in India, it's even more markedly different. There are
Yeah, I
different
think I
rules
think
and regulations.
they're pretty open about that too, at least from what I know. I
Yeah,
don't know much about the culture. I've never lived there. I haven't been, but um
yeah, they're
it's
very
just I
open
think
about
yeah,
expressing the
that's what I
differences.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, and so so you can imagine there are it now it changes according to different families and different
Hmm.
systems and different outlooks. Of course, people are individual. You cannot paint an entire culture or community based on just one experience. But
Yeah.
I went from a very, very modern, advanced, accepting environment in which, as a woman, I was able to express myself, be what I wish to be, choose the type of occupations I wish, although even there I was conforming to what my parents wanted me or what was
Yeah, because this was
accepted.
arranged, right? This was an arranged
It
marriage.
was, but I'm talking about even
Okay.
growing up in the 90s. If I wanted to go into media, which I'm in right now,
Yeah.
I would not have been encouraged because the traditional jobs were doctor, dentist, teacher, computer person, those traditional
Hmm.
roles.
But even
If
women
we,
weren't encouraged to be a doctor. They were encouraged to be a nurse and not to
well,
be an
yeah,
actor, but maybe a makeup artist. At least that's
true,
how
but
I
even
looked
that
at things when I was much
yeah,
younger. So yeah,
even that was not allowed. So being a makeup artist wasn't going to be the type of role that would have been really accepted because it
yeah,
wouldn't have brought in the money. There
that's
was no
true.
prestige to
Yeah.
them. So I would have loved to have gone into media at that time, but there were a couple of things holding us back. In the 90s, there weren't that many colored women in media, right? Especially Indian women in media. It was not very well accepted. Really the change started to happen in the 90s, I would say, here even in Toronto. And so it wasn't really an option. So I went into the traditional role of being a teacher, and I
Okay.
went to school. I became an early childhood education specialist. And so that's my degree, my honors degrees in that. I taught starting from kindergarten. When I moved to India, I went from speaking English, being in this environment, to a very rural place. And that was a challenge on multiple levels. First off, the culture, even though I was visibly Indian, I was very Western and I didn't understand what Indian meant. I had never experienced India the way that I was now experiencing living there. Visiting a country and living in a country are two very, very diametrically opposite sort of
Well,
situations
there's
to find.
different rules and regulations too. And now in India, I want to ask this because I imagine a lot of people that are listening in on the podcast or watching this video might have the same question. In India, is there any like rules against women like going after those higher positions if they wish? Or is there something that like separates, like you can't, you don't even have that option?
No, there's nothing like that. It's nothing that's blatantly said. But as
Okay.
women and as empowered women and as accomplished women around the world can vouch for this, women have to often work doubly hard to get to those positions that men sometimes effortlessly wear. And so, even in terms of getting the position, it's one thing, but then being acknowledged about that in terms of monetary remuneration, getting paid for what it is, equal work for equal pay for equal work,
Work.
that's
Yeah.
still
That's still a big one. Yeah.
a sentiment that is being echoed right across the US and Canada. So even though we have situations where we're all empowered to do whatever we wish, we find ourselves in jobs where women are not being paid the same thing as men. So then you apply that to a community and a culture where gender roles entail that women do everything at home, are
They
as
still do that.
accomplished with their families, they're cooking, they're cleaning, they're taking care of the kids, but now they've got an additional responsibility. They're going out and doing a job and they've got to be equally accomplished in that. So here, let's add another apple onto this apple cart just in case you didn't have enough to do, right? And
Yeah,
so,
society did, at least, I mean, ever in the 50s, women were like, they were housewives. Like that was their occupation. 50s, like you could see it everywhere. 50s advertisement encouraged women to be housewives, to be that domestic servant, to be, everything
perfect,
for the family,
coming
that
up,
base.
um,
And then, through like the 60s, and then, just trying to find balance and women's rights and all that, and then, definitely through the 80s and 90s, finding some, takeaway, but still living with that generation. Like the parents are saying, hey, you still got to be the caregiver, the house servant,
right.
basically. You have to learn these
Yeah.
basics. But not only that, because cost of living's gone like out of the roof since then. And it really takes two people to make an income to just have a nice life, right? Just to have the basics, and just to have that vacation and everything else. um
Right. What I
and
advocate
then,
for really is about the fact that as young girls, when you have young girls,
yeah.
we encourage the girls to be as accomplished. There's no
Yep.
differentiation. You go to school, they're given access to the same number of extracurricular activities, the same access to the education, to being able to express themselves to the same degree. All of that happens. That's great. And as they grow up, they get, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze in a minute.
Well, I'll jump in here real fast while you're sneezing. So I do see a lot of, like, there is an amazing, like, women's things, right? We do have like coding now for women. We have like the Girl Scouts has always been amazing. I've been a part of the Girl Scouts for 8 years. However, I feel, as having two girls and one son, I feel that there's some segregation going on for my younger son now, that I really think everything should be inclusive, no matter what your gender, no matter what. Why are we putting boundaries on anything? Why can't we just teach the same and say, listen, there's no difference in age, there's no difference in gender or race or culture. We're just all people. We all want the same thing. Can we just learn, like, generally, um
how
I just don't like,
how beautiful.
trying to separate.
Yeah, how beautiful that would be, right? And if
Mhm.
you look at some of the definitely some of the things that are happening across the world with regard to the protests that are happening, the acknowledgement of visible minorities, and the fact that they have often, whether it's about being minority in religion, whether it's minority in color, whether it's a minority from where you come from, whether it is minorities in sexual orientation, in terms of life choice, life partners, whatever it is, you decide which minority you want to choose. They have had people from various walks of life decide to marginalize them because they have prejudices against them in some way, shape, or form. And so, about inclusivity, it would be such a beautiful world if we just saw people as souls and not see them for what is the external, on the outside, the coverings that we have, but we just related to people because they were just souls. and
Yeah.
and we didn't see all of that other stuff, right? I think my train of thought with the other point that I was making about children and girls is that we raise them to be able to be the most accomplished. So there they are, they get up to high school, they get into university, and they're super, super accomplished. And then in a traditional Indian family, what happens is they get married. And when they get married, what they're doing really is all of those accomplishments are like their resume to land the right husband, right?
I see.
And then
Yeah.
when they often land the right husband, because now you've got an accomplished daughter-in-law or a wife, and you're going to fit into the accomplishments. But then that woman who's spent that many years honing, gaining skills, becoming great in what it is now relegated to family sort of roles, taking care of the in-laws, perhaps taking care of the home, taking care of the house, the food, and doing all of the domesticated duties that are traditional because her mother has raised her that way, that she knows how to do that as well. Because we come from the system where we pass on through the mothers often the role requirements to the children. So although we like to blame the men, it's actually the women that are holding a lot of us back. It's the traditionally thinking women who are conforming to the roles that they've been given from generations past. And we need to break that cycle so
So
that
basically just saying here that we should teach boys how to do the same domestic skills as women. So
I had two boys. I raised two boys, and I had no option. There was no girls in my house, and they had to do everything. Had to, make their beds. They had to do their own laundry from the age of 12 or 13. They were shown.
Mine age 12. It's like, I don't do your laundry. I don't clean your bathroom. That is your responsibility. You're going to have to learn to do it. Yeah.
If it's dirty, it's dirty. If they complain, go figure it out. Here's the cleaner. Here are some gloves. Go do it. Right?
Yeah. I do the same thing. My kids are 10, 12, and 15. Yeah.
It's a bit of tough love, but I think that tough love pays off later because you grow. God's gifted us with two hands at work, two legs at work, and a mind that's functional. Figure it out, right? By the age of 5 and 6, kids really have everything that they need to know. Next is just the acquiring of the knowledge, but in terms of personal skills, emotional skills, it's done by the age of 5 or 6. They have the things they're going to be able to cope, their coping mechanisms, right? And so,
well, we got to remember there was a time not so long ago, even in the United States, that kids worked. They didn't go to school full time. There was no full-time school. They actually went to work to help to support the family. And for a long time, in rural areas, they did that, for many years. That's why you had kids to help on the farm, So, some pass away because of disease and stuff, it's just the way life was. It was totally different,
It was, right. And it was to pass on. Yeah.
I wanted to get to, okay, so, definitely you're very passionate in helping children and, making sure that you can, share their message and, not only help women, but also guys or any type of, person in general with what you have to share. So, you went through this point in your life that was really your fuel, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that time and what are you doing now that's based because of that? That it gave you the fuel and now you are just like, I'm done, I grew, and this is how I'm going to turn that around and make something. Because then we have your book and stuff as well too that I want to get to.
Right. And so I think that point was when you hit rock bottom, emotionally, mentally, you feel done. You feel like you've given the best of yourself. You have no more left to give. And that was when I had two options. I could have just disappeared. That would have been at the end of me. And I mean disappear in the sense that I would have just emotionally been bankrupt. I didn't have any more left, and I would have become a shell of the woman that I am today. Or my sense of self exerted itself, and I decided that I had enough and that I had done my due diligence. I had raised two children. I had towed the line that my parents expected. I had towed a traditional marriage. I had done everything that was in my power to follow what everyone expected of me in my life. And I phoned my mom one day and I said, Mom, I'm done. I'm done conforming. I'm done living my life for you or for Dad or for the church or for, my, ex. I've done the best that I can as a mom. I've raised my children to the best of my ability. I was not perfect, but I'm done. Leave me alone. I want to live the rest of my life on my own terms.
Now, was she always like the one that was just like, hey, you shouldn't dress like this, or maybe you should put on a little bit of makeup, or, that's, you're looking a little bit fat there, you did like some moms do.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is that I don't blame her. It's because she came from that background, right? So when I started to become I started to become more and more public, in terms of, I became a public figure. I was becoming more and more visible. So for a family that does not even share when they go on vacation with anyone, you just don't tell them. And there I was telling everyone, oh, we're going off to Florida, or we're going off to here. And my parents would be like, why did you tell them that? And I'd be like, so what if
Why
they
not?
knew, right?
Why not?
Right? Exactly. Well, it was a different mindset. So
Yeah.
for my mom and my dad and my family, my kids, I was starting to brand myself. And in that process of branding, it was taking the pictures, it was putting it out there, it was tagging people, it was getting my name and my voice and my message out there. But I wasn't out there yet. And so I was starting, and they didn't believe in me yet. They didn't know my power yet. And so they were like, what is it that, oh, she's narcissistic, like she's just taking pictures all the time and she's just promoting herself. And it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was in my rudimentary sort of way trying to brand myself, because I had this voice and I didn't know what I was doing. It was like groping in the dark. So when I started doing that, my mom would say, today you took picture with a boy, yesterday with a girl, and now they're all friends. Who are they? Right? And I would
I
say,
love
well,
that.
and I would say, Mom, there are like 300 people in front of me, and someone says, Annie, we want to take a picture with you. And I would say, yes. And they put their arm around me. Does that immediately make me their girlfriend or their boyfriend or new friend or whatever? It's a different mentality, right?
It is.
It's like
It is.
what you see out there in a photograph is not necessarily the reality of the situation. And so it was the perception of what was going on versus the reality of what was going on. And my reality was that I was building my voice, I was building my branding. And so the crash burn happened when I walked away from it all. And in the process of walking away from it all, Amina, I actually lost everything. My parents ostracized me. I was ostracized from the community, from the church, my children. I left from my marriage. I was, there were several other circumstances that happened at the same time that caused me to crash and burn. I literally crashed and burned.
Wow.
And it was an emotional roller coaster from that point for the first year of me being on my own. And the only thing that sustained me was this inner voice, this self-discipline that I had begun almost 20 years ago, starting from probably my mid-teens to early adulthood, where I was discovering myself. And I had been starting this journey of surrounding myself with people who had different type of growth-minded thinking. And that journey and those learnings and those teachings that had been embedded in me were the voice within me that gave me reason, that gave me hope. And they were the statements that I kept saying to myself, that there is a better day for me. There is a better tomorrow for me. It wasn't through drugs. It wasn't through any sort of external counseling. I had no one supporting me emotionally initially, because
well, you were at bottom. You didn't have nothing.
I was, but I was also
nothing with nothing, right?
Right, but I was also a public figure, and that's the difference. And when we look at people like who are public figures, who on the outside project everything as being unruffled, but in the inside are going through enormous turmoil, this is where we have to really pay attention. And this highlights, for example, some of the recent things that have happened that I know you saw yesterday. Someone else in the entertainment media world committed suicide yesterday.
Yeah, I mentioned it briefly yesterday. Yeah.
Kate Moss, and we look at Anthony Bourdain, we look at Robin Williams, we look at very, very high profile people that seem to.
Yeah, I loved Anthony Bourdain and Robin Williams, and I love their work. I was following Robin Williams ever since Mork and Mindy as a little kid.
Exactly. Right? Nano.
However you do it now. Yeah. I loved him. I think he was a huge inspiration to me back then. And
and I used a lot of humor in my work. And so it was like, what differentiates someone and what differentiates people when they go through those emotional crises to be able to pick themselves up? Well, for me, it was that my sense of survival, my sense of self was so strong my desire to just not let this crush me was so strong that my voice at that point was just to plead with God, like, God, this is not what I want. I've done everything, what do you want me to
I followed the path that everybody told me I should follow, and I did it to my best. Now what? I'm not happy.
And now what
This can't be it.
I,
This can't be it.
I used to plead, and it was so bad, Anina, that I would go and host a show. I would be out there. I would do stuff. I would get in the car, come home, and then I wouldn't leave the house for 8 days. I was miserable. I was suffering from situational PTSD. I was suffering from anxiety and depression. Anyone who shouted at me would set me off. And even today, when someone is very aggressive or speaks in a certain tone of voice, it's a trigger for me, and it sends me into a space that I don't like. So I'm very, very, very careful about who I allow into my energy sphere right now. I'm very careful about who I allow into my head.
I do the same, because it matters. It matters who you surround yourself with. And if you have that feeling, and this is for everybody that's listening or watching, if you have that feeling where this person that always comes around and you feel terrible and you just feel awful with them just being in your presence, then you need to have less communication with that person. You need to, even if this is like a loved one, like somebody you really care about, you need it for your own comfort. You need to find people that are going to, let you be yourself and raise your voice and speak, and you need that positive energy. And I say it this way because I have negative family members. I've dealt with negative relationships, and so sometimes it's not so easy, because it could be even kids too. I know parents that deal with abusive kids, and they don't know how to interact with that child. So it's not so black and white. You can't just get rid of them. You can't just like say I'm done. But you can. You can improve yourself by surrounding yourself with more positive people that's going to inspire you and lift you up. And then with that, you can just hope that you're becoming such a role model for yourself that they are going to see that and want to be that too. But you can't change people. So I want to put that in there too. So yeah.
You can't change people. You can only change how you react, right? And so what you have real control over is yourself, and how you allow, or what you allow into what creates your sense of self. And so like you, I cut out everyone. I cut out everyone that I knew. I removed everyone who was in my traditional circle. I had a lot of family who were being told by other close family that it was me that was crazy. It was me that was wrong. And it was almost a year after I was on my own that I had separated that people started to know that I was on my own. And that was when things started to change, and I started to reach out to people and share my story a little bit.
Yeah.
And that led me really to the next phase of my life. And really from 2018 till now, my journey has been to be the voice to the voiceless. And this is something that is very, very passionate and very important to me, and is really what's fueling my work to serve others, is what I went through as a woman, what I went through as a mother, and continue to go through even now as a mother, is something that should not be accepted, and should be something that other women should stand up for, other men should support. And I'm talking about this. I'm talking about the messaging as couples, even when you're going through difficult situations, that as couples you share with your children. The messaging that you share as either about the father or about the mother. I'm not talking about just women. In my case, it's for me, because the messaging that my boys received growing up from a significant man in their life was, this is how it's okay to talk to a woman. This is how it's okay to treat a woman. And this is how it's okay to support the family in this situation. And it was wrong. And so when I spoke up about it, I was made to feel like what I was saying was wrong. But I'm not just talking about women having that issue. I think there are situations where men are also in that same sort of
And there
situation where
is. I have a friend that the wife left when his kids were like 2 and 3, and he was the main caregiver. He didn't have a car, nothing. He borrowed a bike and went to work on the bike. And yeah, when the
yeah.
kids were in school, yeah.
So it's about parental alienation, and it's about, it's okay to have a dysfunctional family. It's okay to walk away from a marriage. What's not okay is to turn your children and their mindset against one parent or the other. I think it's very, very important that children also realize that it takes two to tango. Two people came together in love to create you, or came together in a moment to create you. And so you are equally invested and equally important in that child's life. And I think for me, that was a very important message. And I think what I did was I raised my children hoping to give them that nuclear family, that mom, that dad, and that ideal sort of situation.
Mhm.
Perhaps it would have been better had I left when the children would have seen both of us in our best, and would have had the best of both of us, and would have had the dialogue of us seeing each other in our best. Because what ended up happening was that boys grew up into adult men with messaging that's not correct. So to this day, some of the things that I have issues with continue to be that my children, they're in their head, the story of what happened has become solidified on facts that are not true.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and has been solidified because I raised my children in a traditional Indian environment, and I was a non-traditional Indian. And so their message was that I was different, and it
Oh.
was different and wrong. And
Hmm.
what my message is, as me as an empowered, strong, accomplished, smart, beautiful woman, my message was not wrong.
No, it
It
isn't.
was different.
It's different. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a message that a lot of people need to hear. And so the biopic on my life called is Fear is
Now
not
the
fear.
biopic is the video, right? That you sent me, that clip, or
That's
is
just,
it something bigger?
it
Okay.
is bigger. That's a trailer of a documentary. So that's a
Okay.
documentary film. That was the
Okay.
trailer that you saw. And it's a full hour documentary on my life, and
So it's
that
already
has not yet.
completed? What is it?
It's already shot. It's already shot. It's in post-production right now. They
Okay.
are aligning the music to the film, and hopefully it'll be released soon. So that's the second film. And that is Face Everything and Rise, which is what
So you said
Fear.
that was the second, though. So you had another one. Yeah, Face Everything and Rise, right? Yep. There's two ways you
So
can look at fear, right? Yeah.
exactly. So you can forget everything and run, which is what I did for a long, long time,
Mm-hmm.
or I face everything and rise, which is what I did when I had my pivot moment. And so I go through the working of my life, and I speak a lot about the traditional life that I had and what I went through and some of the experiences that I have, and then how I took those and then have made that and shaped that into a success today. Because right now I'm on a global platform. Right now I'm recognized as a coach, a speaker, a mentor, a thought leader. Many other accomplishments well into branding, marketing, as
Yeah,
an
because
international.
you've been working on the speaking for a while now. You said that you were a public figure before, before you initially left. Initially, we were in India, and were you already, doing speaking and stuff there, or was it until you came back to
I was in India.
right?
I did a couple of things. In India, I had some billboards. I was in some commercials. My voice was
Okay.
used in
Yeah.
voice.
So yeah, you were. So even back then, and you were doing
Right.
that. And what county are you in now in Canada? I missed that.
I'm in Toronto. I'm in Toronto. So we're
Okay,
in
just making sure I
Ontario.
said that right, because I did say Toronto at first, so just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you're in Toronto and you're still doing the same speaking, where but this time you're definitely focused on encouraging women, definitely, but also the message can be, of course, for anybody out there that's that needs this information, that needs to find
Absolutely.
information.
Speaking is one aspect of what I do. So my media company is GTA South Asian Media Network,
Can you
and
say that a little slower? Say it a little slower.
yeah,
So
wrap that up. GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area, that's what
okay,
GTA represents.
GEA.
South Asian Media Network. And so the mandate of the company initially was to unify people who are in the media, different networks within Toronto, because I was hosting shows for multiple communities. And what I realized is that most of the communities stayed within themselves. So the Gujaratis stayed within the Gujaratis, the Bengalis were staying, the Bengali Keralites were, the Tamilians were, but we were all, you can imagine India is like Europe. Every state in India is like its own country. It has its
Oh,
own
interesting.
culture, costumes, food, language, history, arts. It's specific. The way they wear their saris even sometimes are different. It's very, so India is like Europe. And the
Very interesting.
difference is India is one country. And so my initial desire to start my company was with regard to allowing people who were perhaps someone in working in cinematography in one community to interact with a sound engineer in someone else's community because they were doing stuff that was in alignment. And that's how it started. Then I realized that it was more than that. There was people who were in the entertainment industry. There's people who are in the arts industry. So then I opened it up to arts, media, and entertainment. Then I realized that it was not just the GTA. It was more open. It was wider than that. So even though I branded it the GTA, then I set out my second brand, which was Annie J Koshy Media Consultant. And as a media consultant, what was I doing? I was doing PR work. I was doing promotional work. I was highlighting artists, people who were in the arts and entertainment industry, people who often write about other people whose own work is worth being written about. And so as I was highlighting people who are in these 3 or 4 different industries as to who they are and what are their skills, what were their milestones, what were their aha moments. And so that's where it started. It started in 2016. Then it moved on. I then have, I'm now a professional photographer, and so I photograph a lot of the different various events. I'm a professional host and speaker. I'm hired to MC or host different shows here in Toronto. I do my workshops, I coach. I'm also a mainstream radio host with a mainstream news channel here in Toronto as well. I have a show on the weekend. And so,
What's the name of the show for everybody that's listening? What's the name of the
yeah,
show?
it's called,
I have people in Canada, so yeah.
it's called The Source. And
Oh, The
whether you're
Source.
listening to me, whether you're listening to me in the US, around the world, or in Canada, you can tune in to Sauga 960. That's SAUGA 960am.ca. And there are plenty of podcasts available also. The Source is a show. It's on Saturday, and usually Saturday and Sunday. But because we're in a COVID isolation, I'm recording from home. And so my show is just on Saturday from 3 to 5, and then repeated again from 9 to 11, and then repeat on Thursdays. But usually it's Saturday and Sunday that we have the show. Now
And
you
Annie,
can
you're going to
listen.
give me all this information to put in the description, right? So we have it all, right?
I will give you, I'll give you all of that. I'll flip it to you so that you can add that. Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that I'm involved with. I'm part of a media organization that's based out of the US. We're North American. We're actually global, called the Indo-American Press Club. I'm the executive vice president of that organization. And so it is to unify the media, Indian media diaspora across the world, and share what's happening within that, and give them an opportunity and a platform to learn from others, and to encourage youth who have an intention of moving into media, and give them that space to be able to learn and nurture and grow.
Oh,
That's
I
the
like
other
that.
thing.
I like that. Yeah, especially for young people looking into media. Yeah, because I haven't heard of anybody really focusing on that. I
Yeah.
encourage greatly in my house, because I don't know if you guys know, but my kids have always been homeschooled. So my oldest is 15. She's now on online high school all herself. I don't do anything with that. Can't credit me for that. But my younger two, as well, been always homeschooled. But I've always encouraged media between things that they can do with their cameras. They always loved cameras, so it's nothing that
Right.
set them back from. And so I always love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one component. But then I also am the chair of the board for a not-for-profit artist-run center here in Brampton, Ontario. And I work with the board to give artists, visual artists, a space in which they can share their brilliance. And so my work in that area is with I started painting. I was always artistic, and I started painting
You can't
for the
see it,
first
I
time.
don't think. Yeah, you can see it, but not everybody. I paint. I've been
The
painting since the
dragon.
90s. So I've been painting since 94. So this is mine, one of mine. I have, others, but yeah. So I'm a painter.
Yeah. So I think for me, I started in 2000. In 2004, I sold my first painting in India for about 10,000 rupees, which is quite a lot in India at that time for a non-existent painter who
Yeah.
just came out.
Well,
And it was
it's
chosen.
all about the feeling you give the people. It's not about how much it
Yeah.
is. If somebody's really
Yeah, it was, but
about
for me, it was vindication, right? Because my
yeah, it is.
family wasn't
It is.
acknowledging it, and I was being teased every time I was being picked. I was picking up a paintbrush, and so that led to me to continue to paint for a while. And then when the joking, the teasing, the support wasn't there, I stopped, and I
Yeah.
stopped painting really in 2008 or 2009 was my
Yeah,
last
I
painting.
actually stopped for 10 years. 10 years. And a lot of people don't know that, but I stopped for 10 years because I didn't,
Yeah, for me,
my
painting
main
was sharing
support
my
system
soul.
wasn't there. So, and
Exactly.
I felt like I was passionate in it and I love my work, but every time I painted, it would have to go in a certain spot in the house. Basically, it had its own room.
Oh,
I was like,
I
so it
so
made me feel
resonate with you.
it
Yeah,
made me feel like, I was less important, basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
I so resonate with what you're saying because Mina, my when we moved to our last house, the house that I left from, and I went back, I realized after I'd left that I'd left my paintings. I went back and I was searching for. I found it in the back. And it had fallen into salt or snow that had come into the garage, and it had destroyed a couple of the
Oh,
paintings, but
no.
they were stuffed into the back, and just not at all respected in any way. And these are some of the paintings that I use in my teaching now when I'm coaching, because one of the paintings is called Emotion, and I do that when I do my Harnessing Your Inner Ninja presentation. And so it's important for me as an artist, that creativity that kept being stifled in one area. It was like it was this pot that kept boiling, and you put the lid on, but it would find the crack to boil over another way, and it would come out in another way. So I stopped painting, but then I became this gardener. I became this avid gardener, and I had over 75 different perennial plants in my garden. I could name them.
I actually had a garden for 10, well, I would say 10 years actively, because that's when I was like really engaged. So I had a garden for many, many, many years. It's not until we moved to this house that I'm in currently that I don't, because the garden area, the hose, we don't actually have like too many hose sources around my house. Is like I got to take my bike to get it. So I'm just like, so I actually retired from gardening when we moved here.
I know.
Yeah,
So
I can't do
I
that.
live in a condo now,
Yeah.
and so because I'm in a condo, I have like two plants, and they have to be very well behaved plants because I forget them
I have fake
sometimes.
ones.
And
I have fake ones now.
yeah, so I like other people's gardens. It's like having little babies, right? I have a borrow and return policy now, right? I love kids and I love babies, but I have a borrow and return. I'll borrow.
The plants. Yeah, I love them too. I am very passionate about, botanical gardens, and I'll go volunteer at the botanical gardens. But, actually having another garden now, I would love to, but I've got a lot to do here. It's not just garden.
Yeah, right. So it bubbled out. So every time I planted something, I was being told, "Oh, you're spending money here, or you're doing too much here, and you're always outside." And so that was being stifled. So then I stopped that, and then I started to do photography, and the photography grew and grew, and my work was recognized.
We have a lot of similarities here. My first business was photography, 6 years. So yeah. Events.
I
I
think that's
focus on events and weddings. So yeah.
so I have now been recognized. My work, my photography work, is very, very highly coveted. It's
Yeah.
awarded.
Right.
It's recognized as being a very, very high standard. And so, yeah, enjoy it. And for me, I just don't do photography. I do what I call artography, and it's applying an artistic
Touch.
mindset or an
Right.
artistic eye
Mhm.
to what I'm photographing. And so I don't have the technical skills. I look through it and I come from a soul perspective where I just know when that's a right shot. And it
Mhm.
takes me seconds to do it. And that's just, it's just something I can't even put my finger on it. It either you have it or you don't. It's like some people just have that skill in them, and
Well, you've
it's
been
something.
honing it through your other
Yeah,
visual
I think
endeavors.
so. I think just
So
being
yeah,
an
you've been honing
holistic
it.
artist, just being an artist, and always being aware of color and how something looks and presenting myself in a certain way, and how do you come across in terms of how do you create your brand. I've been doing that, and so for me this is just another component of the branding. And so all of these things led to me realizing that I've been walking around with a book in my head for a long time.
And this is the
And
book is this the name of the book that I have here? Badass Self? Is that it?
how to be your badass self using your
How to
inner
be.
energy for branding success. And so it takes you on a journey from the you, which is the internal, to the you on the external, or your brand. And you're talking about why personal branding is important, but how personal branding affects your company branding as well. And in today's era where you are moving from a brick and mortar structure environment to an online presence, how do you brand yourself so that you are branding yourself consistently across various platforms, that you're appropriately branding in every interaction that you're having? And then how do you use your inner message to represent what you are actually saying in your outer message? Because often we find that those two are not in alignment.
So
So
it's a learning book for people that, not only in this
it,
business sphere, but also how they can learn to empower themselves and express themselves as a brand, which is very important because I'm huge on brands. If you guys haven't noticed, all my stuff has my name in it. So you remember. But yeah, so that would be a really powerful book for a lot of people. So when is that coming out? Do you have it out
it
now?
It is in the editing. It's edited already. It's in the layout stage. So I've just
Okay.
approved the layout of the manuscript, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting. It's like giving birth to a baby. This
It
has been
is.
almost. It's a
It
year and a
is.
half almost, and
I
so
actually have
I'm
4 books
waiting.
out there, so yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's exciting when you
this
see
is.
them print. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is definitely not a fluff book. This is not like Mills and Boons or Harlequin romance where you can sit back, lay back. If you're expecting that, that's not going to happen. This is actually meat and potatoes. This is
Good.
a lot of kernels of truth that come out, and it's a journey. And really, what I'm saying in there is nothing that's rocket science. It's nothing that is um, uh, unusual or unheard of in any shape or form.
It's so
But
take is
what
it
I've
like a
done is
guideline too?
articulate I've articulated it, and I've laid it out in a way that takes you through a journey to look at different components. Often what we're finding ourselves with as we accomplish things in our careers is that you get to a certain stage where you become recognized as a manager or a VP or higher than that, and then all of a sudden you get downsized, or as in we've happened right now with COVID, you get laid off or the company folds, and you find yourself rudderless and really going around in circles, unable to really brand yourself because you don't know who you are anymore. You become used to doing so many things you don't realize and know any longer what is it that you truly like doing, as versus what you know how to do, as versus what people come to you for experience and knowledge. And so it's a look at yourself, your voice, your decisions about what you want as a person, And then a look at how do you choose your colors? How do you choose your messaging? How do you decide on your mission statement? How do those reflect on who you are as a person? Because as a brand, you become the walking representation of your brand. And so if you are not living, breathing, speaking your brand, you're not going to be able to build brand authenticity and brand reliability and brand trust. And so I speak on these things throughout the different chapters. You have key, key
Do you have
takeaways.
do you have a place that people can like register for like a newsletter when that comes out, or where would they get in contact with you to
Yeah.
get any of your information on either your speaking engagements or your movie or your book or your photography? You've got a lot. Do you have like a main like website, or can they connect with you just on Facebook, or how would you like them to reach out to you?
So you can find me. I have two different websites. My first website is www.annie, ANNIE Koshy dot com, sorry.
.com.
And
Okay.
.com, and that's my main website. My second one, which has my books, my acting, and other things related to that realm, speaking engagements, etc., is www.findyourselfseries.com. That's FINDYOURSELFSERIES.com. That's findyourselfseries.com. Those are the two websites. You can find me on social media. I have two Instagram accounts, Annie J Koshy and also GTA, South Asian Media Network. Those are my Instagram. On Twitter, you'll find me under GTA SAMN, which is GTA Salmon. That's a short form for my company. And on YouTube, you can find me under Annie J Koshy Media Consultant. I have several things. I'm a singer as well, and so there are some covers. I cover events, and so I have some videos from different events that I've covered, and various dribs and drabs of things that I do. There's too many things.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Okay.
On social media, on Facebook, I have 6 pages. Reach out to me, and once you connect with me, you can see the different things that I do. This is just a snapshot of a couple of things. I have many other roles. I'm also part of a platform called Asira, and that is a global platform that I'm speaking and coaching and mentoring on. So if someone wants to know more about, if they are a coach, speaker, author, and would like to know more information about Asira and what I'm doing on that platform, they can reach out to me either through you, Amina, or to me directly.
Okay.
And I'm happy to help them.
Yeah, I'll put any links that you send my way. I'll put it up on the description on the YouTube channel. You can find the YouTube channel at amina.media. So that again is Amina, that's AMENA.media. And that will take you right over to the YouTube channel where you can see these stories. This is called the Message of Hope series. It's from struggle to success. Real people come on here pretty much every single day and share their story with me. My name is Amina K. Thornton, and I'm so glad to have you guys here today, but I have to say goodbye here to Annie here. We are running a low on time, and I'd like to thank you guys all for tuning in on the live. I see we had quite a bit of people show up both on the Instagram as well as the Facebook. For any of my social media, you can find me under Amina K, that's AMENA KAY. And then you can also connect with me via Messenger or direct to the studio line. The studio line is 540-755-0550. Again, that's 540-755-0550. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you guys all for tuning in to this special edition with Annie Koshy here, sharing her message of hope from her struggle to success story. And I'm so glad she came on and shared her amazing story and journey with us. And I have to thank you, Annie, again. Is there any last takeaway you'd like to tell everybody before we sign out?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, and I will pronounce my last name just so that everyone can hear it. It's Annie Koshy, and it's Koshy. I want to say thank you to Amina. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're listening to me, you've listened to the podcast that we've done right now. Just keep believing in your dreams, keep living your voice, and being true to yourself. Be your authentic, true, kind, compassionate self to every single person that crosses your path, and you're going to see that as you do that, you're going to light someone's life, and that's the best message that I could say.
Thank you, Annie. So I do want to touch base. If you guys aren't listening to the podcast, let me give you the address to that. So that is the One Up podcast. It's now currently on 8 broadcast stations, including the Apple Podcast, and you can find that by going to One Up, just by typing in the one spelled out. So it's ONE up. And you can type in my name as well and pull that up. So that would be Amina K. To get to all the links, you can go to Anchor, like the boat Anchor.fm, like FM radio. So that's Anchor.fm/one up to find your favorite network. Also, you can even support the channel there as well. It's totally appreciated. It helps keep everything running and invest tune, right? So I totally appreciate any donations. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Annie. Take care.
Thank you.